some people are sensitive, and this is, I'm not so much talking about me, I'm talking about me, but I'm talking about this whole antinatalist thing. I am sensitive, and I think I covered it up when I was younger, up till the age of 25, yeah, by being nasty, basically. I've got a good brain, and it could always come up with the cutting comment, and there was no comment that anybody could make that I wouldn't have a question that wouldn't tie them up in knots. Didn't really matter who they were, or at least that's what I thought. But probably to them they just thought I was just horrible and just pathetic and please go away. But anyway, Mrs. Mystic tamed me. 25 to 52, 27 years, 28 years I think we've been together. She's tamed me. I'm a lot nicer now because I just don't have to, I don't know, I just don't. I'm not that horrible person anymore. But I think the nastiness that I was up to the age of 25 was covering up probably for being, as Steve-O says, a sensitive child. I don't like, I hate being told what to do, and I really don't like something like Steve-O's comment. It was very cutting. You know, you obviously haven't lived life enough, pathetic, that, whatever it was, you know. But, see if this will go together. The cutting things generally come from friends. If commenter Bibbly126 comments, "Oh, you're pathetic, not being wanting to be pigeonholed," I just ignore it. But if it's Steve-O, I'm thinking it's the Steve-O that who is one of these new digital friends, it means a lot more. And obviously, if Mrs. Mystic just puts one word wrong, if you don't understand what I mean, it can really hurt me, because on the friendship scale, call it love if you want, but on the friendship scale she's obviously at the top, because we're of a similar ilk, presumably, because we're both happy to live out in the country, in a foreign country, not have any friends except each other. I have my YouTube friends, she's got one or two people, you know, a handful of people she communicates with. But basically, I imagine it's because we're both sensitive, what Steve-O would call sensitive. I don't know if it's because we're both not the oldest child, we're the younger child. Doesn't matter what it is, but we're sensitive. I covered it up, as I say, with nastiness to start with. And now I cover it up by running away from it. I run out to the country so I don't have to deal with it. I had to deal with it when I was at work, and I dealt with it then, best I could, and got through that. But I'm glad that I don't have to go out into the world and deal with the pain of the world anymore. I go out on YouTube, and as you said in your video, it's the distance which makes it a lot safer. But with people like yourself, Gary, or Steve-O on Over the Peak, if then we start getting snarky, the friendship thing still is there on that gradient of friendship. Although there is the distance, it still seems to hurt when the snarkiness goes past a pain point. Now, I've got a very low pain point. I'm a sensitive child. But this is really where I'm getting to in the video, to try and make it into some sense, is that for the antinatalist argument, you can talk of Joe talked of spina bifida, you talked of elephant man disease, and a couple of others that I don't know what they are, but they're obviously horrible things. But just being born as a sensitive child, nothing I can do about it, I just am a sensitive child. That's a bad thing. But this is all being rolled, this was all to be rolled into the video with me doing the watering. That I look at life and its futility, the futility of watering, the futility of friendships, the futility of learning things, as we got from John Cleese the other day. Because then we just die. We're probably, unless, you know, you get up to a level of the highest intelligence you can get, and a couple of things will happen. You'll either go Alzheimer's and go down and become, you could go all the way down to baby again, or then you just die. Now, that's, to me, that's one of the most, the biggest reasons why life is a complete waste of time, because what's the point of this? And then the argument goes, well, you can when you're up here, not that anybody listens to old grandfathers or old men, but even if you're here on the thing, and Steve-O's age, because he knows a lot about computers, and he could pass it on to young people, and they could develop other things, but that's work. But the whole idea is that people say, well, then you get to here, you pass on your information, and then other people take it on. And I say, what the fuck for? You know, so somebody else can pass on more information. We're not going anywhere. And the watering can thing was to show that everything in life is an effort. Morning, Wolfie. Getting out of bed. That's Wolfie, the next door neighbour's dog, getting out of bed. It's an effort. I mean, most people want to stay in bed in the morning when their alarm clock goes, or when they think it's time to get up. I mean, I'm lucky that I've got a bit of a bad back, and my bad back says, it just tips the balance. It says there's no point staying in bed any longer, because it's going to be more uncomfortable to stay in bed than it would be to get up. So I get up, and then you've got to feed yourself, and you say, well, that's no great effort. But it's just effort for absolutely no reason. And then you get to doing what you do in the day, which was to be represented by my watering the vegetables. And what for? It's totally and utterly futile. Fighting against the bugs that are trying to eat the vegetables. And what for? I've said in the past videos, because I want the self-aggrandizement of growing lovely vegetables. Maybe for Mrs. Mystic, so I can say, here are Mrs. Mystic, here's a lovely vegetable. It's not as though I've grown them all. She does her bit of it. It's not all my project. I wouldn't like you to think that. But what for? That's totally useless. And it's just that life is just an effort. And as you pointed out to be, the effort of, I won't go through the 4 things you do, your reproduction, all that sort of stuff, because I think I've forgotten one of them. So I grow the vegetables to eat them. Some people grow rabbits to eat them. Some people grow cows to eat them. Some people grow children. Oh, I did have an idea. I'll just end this video now with an idea, because it hasn't quite rolled into the great organised thing that I was working out when I was doing the watering. About parents, and obviously the trouble that you will have, because I'm not into pushing this too hard. I'll discuss it, but I'm not going to push it, this antinatalist thing. But when it comes to Fred, I thought I could put this on a website where you, a bit uncomfortable on the bottom, where I can run to a bit longer. I think you'll watch it. You did a video to Fred where you got the idea that Fred was coming along to your idea that antinatalist, or this having children, may be a bad idea. He was kind of edging towards it. Now, I know from other videos that you've talked of that you did fishing with your father. And I thought, because then you went into Fred and said, look, what I want from you is for you now to declare that at that time you were an ignorant fuck, or something along those lines. And I thought, the fishing analogy came to mind, and that is, you know, you get a little tickle and you go grab. And that's what you do when you're a juvenile fisher. And your father would say, no, calm down. If it tickles, pull in the line a bit, pull in the line a bit. But you didn't. No, you had to go, just because Fred gave you a tickle, you had to go grab. And I was thinking, no. Anyway, where was I going? Parents, yeah, parents. It's a shame I've got it written down on my pad. It was so good. I might have to go. Can you give me a couple of seconds to try and think of it? Parents there. No. I'll have to go home and tack it onto the end of this video. Not that it'll, you know, not that it's mind-blowing, but it's, you know, every now and then in your, when you're doing a video, you come up with a clever little phrase and you think, ah, yes, that's a clever little phrase. A clever little phrase to me came enough that I wrote it down, so I'll go and get it. What I'll probably do, because that'd be too untidy to start another video, I'll just end this video now. Actually, I'll do a little recap and then end the video, and then I'll edit it by writing it on the screen. So, thanks for the video, Gary. It was bloody painful to... let's say, it was probably as painful to listen to as it was to make. But thank you. Steve-O and his thing just confirms I am a sensitive child, and there's nothing I can do about it. I used to, or half my life, 25 years, I did by being aggressive and keeping everybody back by, let's say, using my mind to be cutting to keep people away. It was an absolute exercise in keeping people away by being so nasty. And the rest of my life, I've kind of just stayed with Mrs. Mystic, not gone out and kind of pushed the world away because I am too sensitive for the world. And then life is, people like me can be born in the world, and that can be, it's not as bad being, what do you call it, born with your brain on the outside of your head, but it's not easy. But you can't see it, but you can imagine what percentage of the population is too sensitive for the world. And then just the basic futility of it, represented by watering the garden, that life is just putting out effort, being driven. If we get the idea that there's an I in here that is, it's just being driven all the way until you either deteriorate to death or just somewhere up here you're cut off. And for what? Nobody can absolutely explain in any acceptable way at all. For what at all? For nothing, as far as I can see, for absolutely nothing. Just to be a little wind-up robot and just through life until you drop dead. That's it. I'll see you out there on one of these. I'll choose one now. This will go up on Vidler if they accept videos that are about this length long. Thanks, Gary. Bye. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, I've looked on my piece of paper where I made the note of my brilliance, and it says parents relieve themselves on their children. And as you can imagine, that's the end. It's like the punchline of a joke. It's the end of what could be a video, or a part of a video, where we accept that life to a certain extent is painful for people and they're always searching for relief. So one of the things that they think will relieve them of the pain, one of the pains being boredom, quite frankly, they think children will relieve them of that boredom, which comes out in the end after a bit of blah blah to parents relieve themselves on their children. Maybe it wasn't worth waiting for, but that was it anyway. And I think that to a certain extent, or to a great extent, is quite a lot of what goes on. Boredom is one of the big killers of people, and they think that children will relieve their boredom, and so they relieve themselves on their children. That's it. Bye.